Hi guys, and welcome to this podcast. I still don't have a name for it. I'm sure I'll find one by when this is posted. But yeah, so this podcast we're going to talk about heavy topics because I think this is not talked about enough, and I love talking about heavy topics like anxiety, loneliness, depression, anything, happiness and insecurities. And so on that podcast, I will have a guest every time, and it's kind of hard to find guests because not everyone is willing to be publicly open about these things. So yeah. I'm very excited. I love psychology, so I love talking about these things. But yeah, so let's start. And here's Eda. Hi, Eda.
Hi. Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. I'm so happy you actually accepted because it's actually rare. Because I know it's scary talking about your mental health.
Yes.
So it's like heavy subjects, but I think that's pretty exciting. So I'm gonna start with one lighter question.
Okay.
So to get into it slowly, so that it's not brutal right away. So my first question would be, if you didn't have, is this your full-time job, YouTube?
Yes, I've been doing it full time for 5 years now, so it is. Yes.
Oh, 5 years. When did you start?
It was like mid 2019.
Oh, wow. So if you didn't have this job, what do you think you would be like? Did you maybe have in mind something else for yourself, or do you have something new now that you would love doing apart from this job?
Well, I've tried to study a bunch of different things. I never finished them, but now I would actually think about. I want to learn programming, so that's hopefully I can do that while doing this.
That's awesome. So you're like a scientific girl, or like, I don't even know. For me, like numbers equal like science.
Well, normally I was always like more of a social, not artsy person, but
Creative.
yeah, I wanted to be like a teacher or like something else, and it never like turned out to be my thing. So I want to go in a different direction now, and I think it's quite interesting to like more in a scientific.
What do you like? What do you like about programming?
I think I'm so fascinated by it because I was always surrounded by like more nerdy people, and I never understood it. So now I want to dabble a little bit into that.
That's awesome. I remember there was a supermodel. I forgot her name. That was a long time ago, but like she was like this Victoria's Secret model. She was gorgeous and stuff, and then she actually, I'm not sure if she created that or took part in a program that teaches programming to girls, and I always thought that these girls were like superheroes.
That's such a
So
cool
it's like
thing.
I could never. Isn't it like it's amazing. I didn't know you had like interest in that. That's so like, oh yeah, that's another world for me. That's you're way above.
But I'm like I don't know much about it. It can still turn out to be the wrong thing for me. But I like at least one workshop or something I would like to do in it.
Did you like math and stuff in school?
No, I was really bad. I was always like the language girl, but
Me too.
like my Spanish teacher was like, maybe you should try something else because I like I don't know. It's a little bit difficult.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So you didn't do any university time yet, right?
I did.
Or yet or ever. You did?
Yeah, I did. Well, before uni I was working at court. But then I went to uni for being a teacher, and then I switched to linguistics and German history. So it was like a lot of like different little things.
Wow. was amazing. And you didn't like it? German history and stuff?
I mean, I loved linguistics. It's like science of all languages. I really loved that, but I never finished my bachelor's thesis. And then YouTube was taking off, so I said,
right,
you can always go back to it if I want to.
It's just YouTube. You can. Yeah. You really can. We're getting into the more the heavier questions. So, do you feel are you like a self-confident person, and like, or do you have, you know, moments where you feel like very low confidence, or what do you think?
I feel nowadays I'm definitely really confident. There were times where I was not at all. Or nowadays, if like my skin gets really bad and I have to be in front of the camera, I hate that, and I don't like. I don't feel confident at all. But yeah, I definitely have times. But I would say I'm a confident person still.
Right. So like, I feel like the camera just emphasizes everything. Yeah. So you have to like be, you know, your most perfect self all the time. And it's really tough, because even if you're a self-confident person, it can damage, like the camera can show you stuff, and I'm like, ooh, my pores. Especially
you record in 4K as well, right? I can't, like, I don't think I could ever do that.
4K pores. It's like craters. It's terrible. And also the light also just, it can make or break you.
But you make it work. I'm like really proud that you make it work.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm kind of like, whatever, just deliver the ASMR. So were you growing up, were you a self-confident like teenager, or is it something that you like, I guess, got recently maybe?
As a teenager, I was not really confident at all. I think my confidence nowadays comes from being financially independent and not emotionally dependent on someone else. Like, I would focus so much on either my partner or like on someone else or family, and now that I'm like free from like all of that, I feel so confident, because I know if I don't like someone or someone makes me feel bad, like I never have to be in that situation, and I think that gives me my most confidence, to be honest.
Now I want to talk about anxiety. Is it something that you've ever had? I feel like a lot of YouTubers do. I don't think I've met a YouTuber who doesn't have anxiety. So is that something that you've ever dealt with?
I think I'm a little bit weird, because I don't have really anxiety regarding that. I have a little bit like of other like weird anxiety, like phone anxiety. When someone calls me, I have such a struggle with that. My mom used to. Yeah.
Continue. Go ahead.
I thought about it when I was like thinking about our call, and my mom was like really strict with like boys and even just going out in general. So every time she would call me, it would be like to ask me where I am or if I'm like with a guy. So now every time I get called, I get this like heartbeat.
Trauma.
Yeah, that I have to like prove what I'm doing right now. So it's really
account
weird.
For.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's not like an introvert thing. No. Like a lot of people, you know, they hate calling, or they hate, just calling because they're introverts, and they're like, it's the biggest task in their day to call someone. It's not like that.
No, I can call anyone that I like want to. It's more when I hear like the phone ring, I get like I'm a teenager again, where I have to like prove that I'm like doing something innocent, and it's weird, but that's the anxiety I have at the moment, where if someone doesn't tell me why they're calling me before, I'm like, I never pick up, and I don't talk to them probably for a week before I get back to them, because it's like triggered. But like luckily
so
regarding YouTube, I don't think I have it.
Even like outside YouTube, you know, like a lot of people have like just anxiety in general for anything. You don't have that?
No, luckily not. I don't think.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
But yeah, it's like I cannot really relate, but you have it in social situations as well? Okay.
Yeah. Well, Depends. For me, it's like just to go somewhere. So like the car gives me anxiety, which is
Okay.
really weird. But I feel like everyone is triggered by something different.
Yeah.
For you, it's calls. So like, are you an introvert or an extrovert
I think I'm.
or a mix?
I don't know if there's like something in between. I think I'm both. I love like being around people, and I like I love just like meeting with people and like being out there. But also sometimes I just need to recharge, and I think the recharging is like what makes like an introvert.
Yeah. Do you have a circle of friends? Do you have something like that? Because um, you're probably like me in that YouTube doesn't really allow you to like meet people and to make friends and stuff. It's not like a desk job or something like that. So like, do you have that kind of circle around you, or is it hard for you to find that?
That's a good point. I had a really hard time with that. Like, I never met anyone being home all day, and usually you get your circle where you spend the most time, and when you're home alone, you don't meet anyone. So I definitely had that like loneliness thing, and I also had like really desperate times. I need to be vulnerable because I definitely had times where I like messaged people that I barely knew, just like asking them to hang out,
To
even
create.
yeah, even if they would live in a different country. I was like, I can come fly out, like we can hang out, and I didn't even know or like them. But yeah, that's kind of like the desperate things I would do when I felt like I really needed to be around people. But I think it's gotten better now.
Yeah, did that go well actually?
Well, I think people was a little, they were weirded out a little bit. Like me going so many like to so many lengths to go meet them if we didn't even know each other that well. So I just focused on my like career for a long time, and I think just being alone, it can also be a good thing because you can focus so much on your work and you can get a new skill, and it's so nice as well. So I stopped doing that and I focused on my career, and then something like changed.
So do you still now have that like feeling of, I guess, loneliness now, or do you feel like it's gotten better and you got to make some friends maybe?
Yeah, I mean, the less I focused on it so hard that I was being lonely, the more friends I got. It was kind of weird, because I think I didn't give like the desperate energy anymore. Like now I have like friends that I met naturally, that I didn't like force to hang out with me, like some out there. And I have a few friends that I meet up with now, for sure.
That's amazing.
So yeah, it's definitely better now.
Do you have any advice for like people who, there are so many people in my community who have trouble making friends? You know, they're like, how do we make friends? And I'm like, I don't know.
It's so difficult because like now we're so much on like on social media. We like watch so many people, and there's not
disconnected.
Like it feels social, but you're not really being social with people just because you watch some people. My tips, I think, would be, first of all, not force it. I think it's really like not good to force it. Maybe have like one hobby where you have to go out, and then it will happen naturally.
Right, like a club or something.
Yeah,
dance classes.
Yeah, or like a workshop. You can go learn something. It doesn't have to be meetups where it's there for people to make friends, because I know that exists as well.
That's that could be awkward, I guess. But if there's something to distract everyone, I guess that's a good yeah. Do you ever feel like deeply unmotivated? And if so, like what do you do when that happens? Do you have tips to still be motivated and stuff? Because obviously that's not just in our jobs. Yes. Everyone can be unmotivated and stuff. So like, do you have these moments where it's like you're at the brink of like, I just want to quit everything?
Yes, I have that so much. I have that at least like a few times a month, I feel.
Oh my god.
I have it with chores. I have it with like working, and like with my personal life. I think like, why am I so lazy? Like this cannot be normal. But I think, first of all, like drinking a bunch of, it's not healthy, but drinking like espresso like really gives me a little bit of a boost where I'm like, okay, I can do this. Like body wise, it gives me energy.
Yeah.
And I also think, honestly, like being grateful, like I have a gratefulness journal where like every day I write like a little bit that I'm healthy, for example, and then it puts so much into perspective. It's like, oh my God, I'm so healthy, like I can do so much stuff being healthy right now. So I think that also helps with my motivation. So
true.
being like having a little gratefulness journal, I think would be a good tip.
That's so cute. Like, I never thought about doing it. I know a lot of people journal, like,
Yeah.
actually, I'm not sure what they write in their whole thing, but I guess they write their day and how they feel and stuff like that. And I've heard that it does so much for people.
Yeah.
I tried that once, and the problem is I write like crap, so my writing is terrible. I wouldn't like anyone to read it when I die or something like that.
Oh my God. But no one has to see it. It's just like for in the moment. I think you can write like as bad as you want.
Yeah, you can write everything you feel, basically, so that you just put down your thoughts into words.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of like going to therapy, actually.
Yeah.
You have to voice the feelings and stuff like that. So that can be a tough exercise for people, but I really recommend it. Oh, shoot. I had a question that just popped up, and I'll find it again. That's right. That's kind of maybe like linked to on motivation, but like, is there times for you where you feel kind of depressed and, like, it's like it can be like just a little depression, it can be like a lot of depression, and if so, like, what do you do to make yourself get out of it? And do you have any tips for anyone?
Yeah, I definitely have tips. I think just sitting with it helps a lot. Like if you need to like cry a lot, I feel I never like stop myself from crying. For example, I like if I need 3 days to get over something, I will do that and not do anything else. With the job, I think it also helps, of course. Not everyone can do that, but just taking some time to really feel what you're feeling, because you will build so much resentment and this anger towards everyone in your life. It's so crazy if you don't like let it out and sit with it. So usually just crying a little bit. Sometimes I like take videos of myself crying and I look at it and it's like, oh, you look a little bit silly. It wasn't that deep.
It wasn't that deep.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many little things I feel you can do to get yourself out of it. If it's not that bad, of course. Like if it's really bad, you should see someone professional about it. But
Yes,
yeah, just like sitting with the feeling, and then it will fade. Like eventually, I feel.
It's true, because it's like if you keep it in, you just basically push it.
Yeah.
But then, like, the more you push it, like, it accumulates in the background. Exactly. And then you just go through your days so angry.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
It's just better. Yeah. Sometimes I just nap for like 30 minutes, and I wake up and I'm like, okay, let's go back to work.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the little things you can do, honestly. It's not nothing like crazy. You don't have to like move or anything. It's like the little things, taking a nap, just crying over it.
It's just taking time for yourself, I think, to just genuinely process things.
Yeah.
And I always say, like, try to do something to make you happy, even if it's for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Just that one little thing can actually help, taking control of your day, I would say. And like, because I think people who, have this like job that takes a lot of their time or a lot of their mind, it feels like your day is just gone like this and you don't have time. And I think like just doing something that makes you happy for a little bit of time, at least you can say like, okay, today I was able to do something that actually made me happy.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
That's always what I say. I know that you added failure in the document, so I feel like maybe that's something that you encountered, and I was wondering, like, how did you deal with that? How do you still deal with that kind of situation where it's just like, oof, I fail?
Yeah. I had such a hard... I wanted to include this because, I don't know, it was like important to me because I failed in...
And it's very common too.
Yeah, I agree. Like you cannot avoid it. That's the problem. And I think a lot of people try to avoid it. There's no way you can avoid it. So I think one thing that like helps me a lot is like seeing that failing in like personal life or in your job is like usually a really like transforming kind of experience. Like usually I stagnate in my personal growth or like anywhere until I fail, and then I get like better in that area. It's like really interesting to me. Like nowadays I'm really glad that things fail so I can be better and like learn more. And I think that was important to me to mention. I think a lot of people can feel really like down about stuff going wrong, but it's definitely necessary in my opinion.
Yeah, you take lessons every time you fail, literally. Sometimes it can be really, really hard, but I feel like there's always a lesson to learn.
Yeah.
And you just have to pick yourself back up and then just move on and stuff.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier, and feel free to, to tell me not to include that because it's too personal or something. You mentioned a relationship that you were like very dependent on. Have you ever had like bad relationships that you got like heavy lessons from, or like any lesson that you can share with people? Or I wanted to include that in the document actually with everyone, but I didn't for some reason, and it was about boundaries. Have you ever learned to, like, have you ever had situations where you had to learn to set boundaries for yourself?
Oh yeah, I see why it's a vulnerable topic, but you can definitely include it. I was so heavily dependent emotional. Like I would base all my day and my feelings on another person. I don't think it was like his fault anyway, but I think when you do that, you grow so bitter after a while because you have so many expectations on them to reciprocate the same time of like, I don't know how to explain it, but you do so much that you need to do, and then when it doesn't get back, you feel like frustrated. But in a way, why did you put so much, like, of your? I don't know how to explain it.
That's totally fine. Take your time.
But yeah, I think it's definitely needed that you need to set boundaries with yourself. That you don't like. You have to have your own life. Basically, you can't base your whole life on someone else, and I think you really need to set a time to be independent emotionally as well, have your own life and not base your day or base your whole month on someone else.
Like when you put so much of yourself and stuff, you kind of start losing yourself in a way. So it's super important to put those boundaries.
Yeah, and it's not fair to the other person as well, because they didn't like, they are healthy and you're like putting so much pressure on them now. So I think it's like not fair to yourself to be so dependent emotionally. And I think it's also, it can be unattractive in a way that if I had someone that was like only doing things based on my likes, I would be like, what are you doing? Like, it's so...
It actually happened to me too when I was like super young. And it's hard when it happens young because you didn't really discover yourself.
Yeah.
So it's like you don't really know who you're supposed to be like. And I was with someone and I based my whole personality around theirs. And so at the end I was like, but do I really like these things?
Exactly. Yeah, it's really weird.
And I was like, no, I hate them. And then when I went out of this relationship, it was like, oh, like, who am I? I didn't set the boundaries that I should have set. And then suddenly I had no idea. I grew up and I was like, I have no idea who I am.
Yeah.
And actually that relationship allowed me to learn that you have to put boundaries.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's super important to be yourself also.
So what
at all times.
Yeah. What do you think is a good boundary, for example? Or like, how do you have an amount of time that you need for yourself?
I would say like boundaries first. Like, it's not so much about like give as much as you take, but it's like make sure that when you give so much, like you can actually discern objectively that someone is giving you back love, or like, you know, time or something, because you have to objectively see that you're putting so much time into someone and that person is not actually putting time into you. I feel like a lot of the time we're blind to these things, you know. We kind of tell ourselves like some excuses like, no, that's fine.
I see what you mean.
They're busy. No, they're not. So you just have to like learn to see signs, and like when you see those signs, not to make excuses. I think it's really important to stand your ground in relationships and to not have people like step on your toes. Because that's not good for anyone, because your personality will be so malleable that like there's no, you know, people will actually learn to manipulate that, and they will get used to it. And I think it's really important for you to, you know, be like, okay, these are my values, these are my principles, this is what I like, this is what I don't accept, and really have people respect that. I mean,
agree.
it doesn't mean you can't like put like, you know, question yourself and stuff. I think we all have that one relationship like that.
I feel like if you know, you know, definitely. If you've been in that situation, you definitely can relate a lot and learn from it. So even there, I think failing is sometimes nice, because you can see like what you really want, or like how you want to be.
Totally. In relationships, it's like you can't just not fail, I feel. Like you have to fail in order to grow first. And then to see what kind of person you want by your side and what you don't want. That taught me so much. And I have failed. There's a subject that I talked to Jojo about, and I wanted also your input on it. I asked him if he felt in the ASMR community that he was integrated with other creators, or if he felt isolated. How do you feel in the community?
It's a little bit weird, because I think there's like this OG kind of group in my eyes, where you belong, and like GB, Jojo, and like a lot of other people, and I definitely feel like there's like a little bit of separation. Not like from you guys, but more.
No, I see.
Even like the respect from the audience in a way. It's a little bit weird. I don't think it's intentional, but I think there's definitely like the core group of ASMR, and then there's like people that came after that I would consider myself to be one of those people, and like now the new wave from people like TikTok that come like over YouTube, and I don't think I felt really integrated. Nowadays it's definitely better, because I talk to, like, I message more people now, or I'm more active like on Instagram, seeing what everyone's up to now. I never had like a bad experience with anyone. Like usually when you talk to someone, then they will be really kind, and like the creators in ASMR. But it was like never really, I didn't feel like part of like you guys, for example, because you were so like out of my league anyway. So it's like,
my God, no.
No, I mean it though. It's like that was definitely my perspective.
Well, that's funny, because like in my time.
Which is still your time.
In my time, back in my in my days, I probably felt like that with the first wave. I was calling them the first wave of ASMR creators, which were like gentle whispering, massage ASMR, whispers red and stuff like that. But then people, welcomed the second wave, which was, I think, us with GB and Freebie and Darling, I think.
Okay.
But then, like, YouTube is, especially, is it the ASMR community or YouTube in general? There's always waves of, like, newer people who bring something new, something fresh and stuff. So I think I would say that you're, I'm not sure at which wave we are at. Like, I lost count because there's so many people now. But like, you're doing really good. I think, like, you rose so well, you know, which I think nowadays is so hard because there's so many people making ASMR, and like the fact that you were able to, like, rise above that giant tsunami.
I appreciate it.
Is actually amazing. And also, like, doing, you know, your own thing also, which is really great. But yeah, I know that people think that we're all like, that, like, the OGs are like super friends and stuff like that, but it's not like that.
It does seem like you guys are, like, definitely having, like, a group chat at least.
Oh.
Or like something like that, but I don't think.
Not really. I have a link with GP, I think, because we started at the same time. I think people see a lot of that and think it's like that, but it's not really.
Okay.
So we're just, like, more like watching, I guess, like, what's going on in the community and stuff. But I think, like, even I feel like I'm too old now to be part of the community.
That's
Meaning
crazy.
Like, people see me as, like, the, you know, the dinosaur in the back.
Oh my god.
So I'm like, well, I'm not cool enough to be friends with the cool kids anymore.
No, but so you think you would be open to it though, right? Because I do.
Oh yeah.
I definitely feel like you guys are in your own league and you were not very open to, like, meeting with the newer, like, people. It's kind of interesting to see your perspective on it.
No, it's just that I think that's actually something in psychology. I forgot how it's called. People expect us to be like this, I think. So, but we're not. But then it kind of turns out this way because then we're, like, no one is talking to us, you know, like the newer channels, I guess, are not talking to us because they think we're that way. So then, like, no one talks to us.
Oh my god.
And then we're actually isolated in a way.
Oh, that's crazy. That's so interesting to hear.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I was saying, I did this whole thing. I did it, like, for myself to open the ball of, like, mental health talk. And then I was talking about how much people, smaller channels, kind of tend to talk to me like I'm some kind of, like, colleague or something, and I'm like, just talk normally to me. What is going on?
That's so interesting.
Yeah, and I'm like, I wish people could talk to me, like, you know, just, like, normally. And so I do feel, like, kind of isolated in that way because people don't behave normally. But it's so funny because I love, that's why I love to ask that people of everyone. It's because I get a different answer every time.
That's interesting. I mean, I'm glad you're saying that now because that definitely changes my perspective on it.
Do you do TikTok?
I did. Like, I did it for a long time, but I stopped uploading. Now I'm, like, dabbling a little bit into it.
It's hard.
It is. It is.
I feel like I'm too old for this. I admire people who can actually do it because I'm like, how do you do this? It's magic.
Yeah, it is. I had a time.
Sorry.
I had a time where I would like upload 3 times a day on TikTok for, like, months on end, but I definitely stopped with that. It was not like fun.
Yeah. How do you feel about YouTube? Like, is there something in this job that you don't enjoy?
It's a little bit difficult. I think just like being in front of the camera is not always my vibe in a way. Like I would love to like hibernate for a little bit sometimes, but then like I love doing ASMR so much, I'm like, okay, I'm like gonna get over that. Like it's fine, I can just do my makeup, you know. Is there something you don't
do you
like?
wish like, oh, something I don't like, it's kind of like you. I don't like being on camera. I grew not liking being on camera as much.
Okay.
I learned to just do so much.
Yeah.
So I was like doing streaming, and then I was doing the videos, and then now you have to do shorts, and then you have to be on Instagram with the pictures and stuff. And I'm like, I actually learned to dislike social media when I didn't mind it at first, but now I just can't, like, just to post on everything, be on everything, and I have my face plastered every time. It's just, I find it really unpleasant.
I see what you mean.
Like taking selfies for Instagram, and I'm like, it's the same face every damn time. I had this other question, like, do you feel like you would, if you had to do it all over again, do you feel like you would do something different?
Like a different job or something different in YouTube?
Oh, no, in YouTube, probably like different content or anything.
That's interesting. I didn't think about that.
Because like sometimes you do, I find a lot of content creators who start doing content, it really works out well, and then they're kind of closed in that niche, and they're like, oh, I wish I had you know, or I wish I could do like fast ASMR or something like that.
Yeah, I think honestly that is a good, I opened different channels so much now. I think I have 4 different channels. Oh, they grew, and then I like stopped uploading. So I think now I already did that. I already wanted to start over, and I did that, and I grew, and I always like came back to my main channel. Yeah, I would definitely still do more different things. I feel like I'm also very repetitive because I think people will like it more sometimes. So,
the algorithm just favors stuff. Yeah. What were your other channels?
I had different languages. First of all, like Turkish, and then I have like my makeup channel where I was like, I can't really, people don't watch my makeup videos on my channel, so I was like, I'm gonna post it in another channel. And then I have like I was super into shorts and TikTok. I was like, I don't really love long videos, I want to do only shorts, but I think this like long is my favorite, and I'm glad that I didn't like completely shut the main channel off anyway. Like I always come back to it.
Well, you don't do like shorts on your channel at all?
I do, but I also had like a different channel for that. I had like such a backlog of videos because I was doing TikTok so much. I was like, I can't post all of them here, so I did another channel.
Also, I love your accent.
Thank you.
It's like it's completely German, right? Like you're bilingual? No, trilingual.
I think trilingual. Yeah.
Trilingual. That's amazing.
Well, you are too,
like
no?
you speak.
You're
I wouldn't say trilingual. I would say bilingual for sure, and then I have knowledge in different in different languages, but not like fully. Whereas you speak Turkish like fully, right?
Well,
fluently.
That's the problem. Like my mother language is Turkish, but I'm not really fluent in it. I can talk to my parents and family, but I couldn't have like an interview in Turkish, you know. German I could. Like I grew up and I was born in Germany, so that's my fluent language.
I hope I was able to make you comfortable. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you for inviting me. I feel so honored.
Oh, stop it. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. I hope you learned something valuable. Thank you, Eda.
Thank you.
I'll see you next time for a new video.